Power is a tool, and it's a matter of how you use it that will determine whether that use of power is for justice or for doom.
This is the difference between a good husband and a bad one.
In order for a woman to truly love a man, she has to respect him.
Especially a lot of modern women think that in order to be treated well, they get their way all the time. Confidence goes hand in hand with competence.
Yes.
You say that all the time.
Because it's earned.
Yeah, because you've actually proven that your walk lines up with your talk.
This week, we're talking about laws 33 through 36 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. And the core themes for this episode are the laws that we're talking about really have less to do with external maneuvering and have to do with the way that you control yourself and the way that you see the inner workings of others. Once again, power is in of itself not good or evil. It is a tool, and it's a matter of how you use it that will determine whether that use of power is for justice or for doom. So, why do you think so many men lose power, not because they lack skill, but because they lose emotional control?
In the context of like a marital relationship or?
Sure, that's a good context. Go with that.
Well, women are by nature emotional. So like the emotional tension in a disagreement or whatever is going to rise. And that is the part of husband nature to like hold the frame, right? And that's when that doesn't happen, it crumples, and then it's just a ball of chaos. Like the whole thing is just an explosion of bedlam and chaos. Yeah,
because you let the vampire loose in the blood bank kind of thing.
And you're not only are you buying into it, or you're actually feeding it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Throwing gasoline on a fire.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the first law for today, which is Law 33, which is discover each man's thumbscrew. So the idea is trying to figure out where their weak point is so that in the event that you need to go ahead and make an adjustment, you can. Pretty straightforward. And it's not a matter of like dominating somebody, though it can be used in that application. A lot of times it's just a matter of what are the things that I know that the other person values so that when I'm talking to them about a given thing, that I can speak according to their values and convictions so that it's much easier to influence them to think the way that I do on a given subject. Now, in marriage, a lot of times it's a matter of when a husband speaks to a wife, there's a lot of things that a guy knows. If he says this thing, she's immediately going to shut off and be defensive and all of that. And there's other things that guys can do to go ahead and get the oven going and start revving the engines and all that. And I think that...
What do we call that before? Spinning the hamster wheel?
Yeah, getting the hamster wheel going. Yeah, it's just one of those things where the hamster wheel is going to go, and it's just a matter of whether you want it to be on drama that negatively affects the relationship, or if you want her to go ahead and start imagining other things that are more positive for the relationship. And a lot of times it's a matter of how we conduct ourselves and how we relate to our wives that goes ahead and causes that to happen one way or the other. Now, in business, a lot of times, this is a matter of figuring out what your business partners or what your employees value in life, just like anybody else, and say, hey, when I'm trying to go ahead and get the best out of this person, what are the things that I can say to them that hits them where it either hurts if I need to go ahead and make a correction, or hits them in the feels in a good way if I'm trying to go ahead and encourage them and really show them where they've done well and guide them to something else.
That's true. It's like if you already are implementing something new, like a new operating procedure or what have you, a new element for them that they're going to have to take responsibility for. If you already have like the answers to the questions they are going to ask based on just their nature and what they're going to be concerned about, it's easier already for them. You're already going to kind of like almost put them at ease and make them more apt to be okay with going along with it.
Sure. And I think a wise communicator in that would go ahead and precede the answers to the predictable questions in the presentation to begin with. Like it kind of reminds me of this budget presentation that I made at church last week because, hey, we have an annual budget that we have to do. And so there were certain things that need to happen. And so I gave the elders 3 options. And I was like, look, here's the status quo. This is problems with the status quo. Here are some things that you're going to have to figure out if we go ahead and decide to take this path. Here's the Grim Reaper option. This is if we're going to go ahead and just gut the budget in certain places to go ahead and make sure to focus on essential functions and then place importance on the things that require priorities. This is how we would go. And then here's the third option, the more moderate option. And of course, like I made all the wise cuts and made sure to preserve as much of the things that I knew was a priority to the eldership ahead of time, and found more administrative cuts and other cuts in operational areas that like we could go ahead and cut and not have operations suffer at all. And by doing that, I was able to provide them with 3 different options, but guide them to the option that I thought was the best for the given situation by the way that I framed it and answering all the questions during the presentation ahead of time. And so that way, really the Q&A portion of it afterwards was very simple stuff.
It was very like, oh yeah, you said that already. Okay.
Yeah. And then it was just like, yeah, we're going to go with this. And then we'll go ahead and have maybe some small tweaks. And they like tweaked all of $3,100 or something like that in the budget. Not a big deal. It's like less than 1% of the budget.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, cool. So by knowing what they value and how to articulate it in a certain way, it was very easy to go ahead and use the ability to influence for good. And to go ahead and show, hey, look, there are challenges, and here are reasonable ways to overcome those challenges. And so that was, going along with my brothers that were also in on the meeting to show them a united front and show them a picture based on what I understood to be their preferences. Mm-hmm. Now, where do you see like the ethical line between understanding somebody and exploiting them?
Oof. It is quite a fine one.
Right.
And it could, because like doing either, you could be so subtle about it.
Right.
You just knowing knowing what makes somebody tick, knowing what will set them off, and knowing, like playing Minesweeper, but you already have like the answers already.
Sure.
So you can avoid everything.
And if you're really good at it, you can go ahead and like pretend like you don't already know the answers to everything and make it seem more
dumb.
mysterious than you actually are.
Yeah. But you can definitely, it's honestly just using your power for good. Just we talk about this, these are like morally neutral, honestly. These are tools. And so like use your powers for good to like influence people to do things that are for everybody's benefit rather than doing something because you want them to do it because that will get you ahead.
Right. And so I think this is one of the laws that are most obvious that it has that good or evil application, that just a small tweak to it is all it takes to go ahead and change something from being morally good to morally neutral to being just evil based on what your own intentions are going into the application of it.
Honestly, like, might be blowing something wide open, but it really does feel like this is when women, got divorced and they were like, oh, he was terrible and he did everything. He made like, I was with him for way too long and he took advantage and whatever. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that this is the difference between a good husband and a bad one.
Okay, let's go ahead and go into that. What do you mean?
Because, well, especially a good husband to a mediocre wife.
Okay. So how would you categorize that so that people have context for what you
Honestly, in a disagreement, it's interesting. Especially a lot of modern women think that in order to be treated well, they get their way all the time.
Okay.
Whereas usually a mediocre modern wife will see the decisions that her husband makes that are not in her favor as him being selfish.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting that you go ahead and categorize that as mediocre. Okay.
Because
an excellent wife is submissive.
You can, and honestly, there's a range there too.
Yeah, there's a continuum for each of these.
Being submissive and being a doormat, and then there's being submissive in that you trust this person and you know that they have a vision for your overall family and they're making the best decisions for everyone.
Yeah, and I would say that
big picture.
The excellent wife is the one that is willing in their cooperation in this, whereas somebody could be submissive and a doormat, but then they can go ahead and hold resentment. And that's usually the ones that are going along and being will-less in the process.
Yeah. So what's interesting is no matter what, if a husband makes the best decisions for everyone and is doing what he should be doing, it all is like in the eye of the beholder as far as the wife.
Okay.
where she could obviously see it as, oh, I see the greater picture, because he takes the time to maybe explain it, knowing, because he knows her. He knows
Sure.
what she's going to be concerned about and all that stuff. But if she's like, a terrible wife is honestly the one who just can see right here. And it's just like, he didn't do what I wanted to do. And what
bad.
difference does it make? It's not that big of a deal and all of that stuff, and making all these justifications. Why, and pretty much holding a temper tantrum for not getting her way.
Sure.
Like that whole thing about the one video that we watched about the designer bags.
Okay. Where the woman had expressed interest in something, and then the man was like, no, this is a gift that I am giving to you.
And this is what I think looks good on you. This is what I'd like to see. And you don't even think about the fact that they already communicated
Beforehand.
before they got on camera.
Right.
Like, this was already done. They just played up this whole thing for the drama. And there's these women saying, he should have just bought her what she wanted. Why does he have to like be so controlling? It's like, no.
It's not about being controlling. It's about expressing a preference, right? And then not only that, it's his gift to her, and he wants her to look good, not only for himself or for her, but also for himself. And I don't think that's wrong.
No.
Like, I don't think it's wrong for a husband to go ahead and buy an outfit for his wife and be like, I think that you would look hot in this. And like, if the wife loves her husband, chances are she wants to look good for him.
Because guess what? If that happens and he picks the thing and he, like, because he knows this is what he wants to see her in, guess what never happens? You never have to ask, do I look fat in this?
Yeah. Provided that nothing materially changes in the other circumstances.
No matter what the answer is, it doesn't matter, because you never have to get to that point.
Right.
But anyway, the whole thing with, the difference between a good wife and a great wife is her desire to understand the bigger picture and to be,
on board with it.
And, a united front. This is, yes, I agree with that. This is our goals and this is where we're headed. And so we can, make these smaller decisions, but ultimately nothing that will affect the greater purpose.
Right. It's like you can go ahead and see that this decision lines up with the greater overarching purpose. And so because you see that connection, you're much more willing to just go along and be helpful in that process.
But I do think a lot of the modern women who are been like divorced and are like bitter about it and like, he was so selfish, he wouldn't do anything for me and I had to do everything and all of this stuff. It's like, did you ever have a shared vision? If not, then that's a problem on both your parts.
Sure.
But also, even if you did, you clearly weren't on the same page about
a lot of things, probably.
Of that. And maybe, she was so selfish that she didn't even care to consider that.
Yeah. And I think that it's interesting because in the context of a Christian marriage, like if the wife is rebellious against the husband for like whatever reason, like it is an indication of a relationship with God in a lot of ways. Because if she is rebellious to her husband, chances are she is rebellious against God in so many other avenues. If she was willing to go ahead and be honest with herself.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you something in light of this.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm in this group on Facebook that is dedicated to like Bible journaling.
Okay.
Somebody actually asked the question, does your husband ever get jealous of the time that you spend doing this?
Only if the things that I asked of you don't get done because of it.
And why do you ask those things?
Because it's in line with what needs to happen overall.
Yes.
Right? So here's the thing. The reason why I would get jealous, and we're going to use the word jealous on purpose, because jealous indicates that it is my time to command of you, right? Because you go ahead and are my helpmeet, right? So you go ahead and serve me in the accomplishment of our overarching goals and responsibilities and all of that. And so when you fail to do the things that I ask of you that are all within my right to do, because you were doing that instead, that is when I get jealous of it. It isn't because of the journaling. It's because you have forsaken your responsibilities to do that.
Yeah,
do you see the difference there?
Of all else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from control. It doesn't come from the actual activity. It comes from you have forsaken your responsibilities to do this.
It was just, I'm not genuinely asking this question of you.
Right, you understand the question.
Yes. And I was happy to see that most people are like, why are you even asking this question? Which means, why is it even a factor for your husband? I'm assuming that this is a thing that she was experiencing.
Well, she's
so
seeking
she brought
validation
it,
from the
right?
from the coven. Yeah.
Right? And it was nice to see that there are genuinely faithful women who prioritize their husbands, because they were like, if it's going to take time away from my husband, like, you know, if it's in the evening and he wants to spend time with me or discuss something and I'm too busy because I'm being so holy or whatever, they, you know, in your mind, you justify it as, then that's a problem.
And that's pietism gone wrong in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And it was nice to see that. But there was actually one comment that stood out. They said, mine was, we're divorced now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like,
yeah, story checks out.
oh my gosh. That was just, my flowers were gasted.
Sure, because she prioritized herself. And like, don't get me wrong, that's very common among modern women to do that, is to prioritize self over everything else. And, you know, it's just one of those things where the husband's responsibility is to love his wife like he loves the church, or like Christ loved the church, right? And so it's looking beyond the here and now and taking a look in the future and what are the things that need to happen to get from A to B, and providing reasonable accountability to his wife and say, look, I need you to do A, B, and C in support of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And if she is unwilling to get on board, that's an insubordination issue. It's a rebellion issue. If she is incapable, then it's a matter of, well, what is the source of the incapability? Is it a matter of lack of tools, lack of resources, lack of time? How do we go ahead and get to yes, right? But I find that more often than not, women don't go ahead and go that route. They just don't do it. And then he comes home and is upset, and then she uses those kinds of things as an excuse for why they didn't happen, rather than being upfront with him about it.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a huge difference, because back when I was, you know, doing the working thing and I was in the military, there were times where I had things on my plate and they were beyond my capability to do for a given reason. And I would go ahead and talk to my supervisor or my superior commander or whatever it was at the time and be like, sir, I've got this, this, and this. You have asked this, 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 and this of me. I can go ahead and do these things well. But if you're going to ask for all 4 of these and you need it done by this time, quality is going to suffer on one of these. Which of these can the quality suffer on? Or can I go ahead and delegate this to somebody else?
Again, you know this person.
Right.
And you're giving them options.
I'm giving them options. I'm telling them what the left and right boundaries are. If there's like a technical limitation, I'm providing that up front, because I'm trying to be a good steward of the resources provided to me. And I'm trying to go ahead and serve those that are above me like I would expect my wife to serve me. That's basically the idea. Just like I understand that Christ is my head, so I serve him like I expect you to serve me.
That's right. It's really interesting how it just stops with submit to your husbands. And that just becomes like...
But that is the fundamental command.
And then some people will like criticize it or like try and like middle of the road it and sit on the fence and try and say, well, we submit to each other. It's like, no.
That's not what that says.
That is not your calling, husband. You are supposed to submit to Christ.
Right.
You are supposed to do that. That's the order that it goes in. And it's interesting that just women just sit there and harp on, well, we're supposed to do that. It's terrible. It's like...
Right, but there's context to it, because you go ahead and you give the plain command to the wife, and then the husband gets all of the context, right? It's the husband gets this myriad of responsibilities, and then the common responsibility to the wife is submit to your husband, because he's the one that's given all the responsibilities to do and enact and put forward. Yeah. And it's on him to lead you to do those things.
Especially back to the Bible journaling thing, it was interesting because there were some people going, my husband always like criticizes what I'm doing, and he has other hobbies that he does, and he doesn't see just because it's not his cup of tea, he discounts or dismisses my what I'm doing as a hobby. And it's like, that's a whole different thing that you guys need to work out as a dynamic in your marriage. Like, that is very telling of your relationship. And that's where that needs to, like, it's just how that manifests.
No, I think it's an excuse. I think for the most part, when women bring it up like that, that's excuse making.
It's like,
right?
well, you, and deflecting.
Right, it's but men, right? Yeah, you're going ahead and trying to put this responsibility on me, but what about men, right? And so normally the question is your husband handling the responsibilities that are levied upon him? Yeah. If so, then why shouldn't he have a hobby? Are you handling the responsibilities that are levied upon you? If so, great, you should be able to have a hobby. If not, maybe you should be handling your responsibilities first.
Well, especially if you think about, a traditional man's responsibilities, it's like, if those don't get done, we don't have lights. We don't have food on the table. We don't have a roof over our heads. Like, these are big, big problems. Whereas if I don't vacuum the carpet today, well, it just would be a little bit messier. It's not the end of the world.
And it's extremely annoying when you step on the carpet and it's like gross.
It's all crunchy and stuff. Yeah. But like, when you leave things going so long as spent, then it starts to interrupt things. Like, we don't have clothes to wear because you didn't wash them, kind of thing.
Sure. But I think that when you go ahead and use that as an excuse for it being okay for the stuff to not get done, I don't think you're doing that.
No.
I'm going to be clear.
Absolutely not.
But delaying the one day erodes the tranquility of the home. And if a woman says that, hey, my job is to make the home, you go ahead and provide me a home, I make the house a home, then the intrinsic responsibilities that come with that is keeping and maintaining it.
Yes.
And if we go ahead and if we have a plan for keeping and maintaining it and it doesn't happen for a few days, tranquility does get degraded very quickly.
Yeah. I mainly brought that up for the purpose of that we can kind of justify ourselves out of, like, oh, well.
You have the whole hamster wheel of excuses. Come on.
The whole thing, yes. But the thing is that, nevertheless, we do have responsibilities and we do need to handle those things. And those are should be our primary focus.
Sure. And I think that guys just go ahead and give it a pass far too often instead of actually nutting up and being like, hey, look, you said you were going to do this. You didn't do it. I need you to get it done. And like holding women accountable. But so many men are so afraid of having to sleep on the couch, which is like nuts. It's like, okay, look, even if that is the case, holding her accountable as a regular process in life is to both of your advantages. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a traditional marriage and to go ahead and maintain good order and discipline in the marriage, and it's good for both of you and it's good for your children as well. But if you're unwilling to go ahead and handle your mantle of leadership as you have been given it, then you're going to have substantial consequences that come along with it. Mm-hmm. You're forsaking your responsibility. It's like Jonah running away from going to Nineveh. It's like, okay, well, then you're going to end up in the belly of a big fish, right? It's not going to be as obvious as that, but that circumstance is going to come about. I just use that as an evocative example of the principle.
Yeah.
So...
I just thought that was super interesting. It's like, what's really going on here? Like,
full
why are you
well
even
what's really going on.
asking this question? You have some things that you guys need to talk about.
Yeah,
don't bring it over here.
She's looking for validation from the coven. That's what it is. All right, let's go ahead and hit the next law up. Law number 34 is be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. And the idea is people treat you based on how you carry yourself. We've talked about this like tangentially in other laws, but I think that it bears repeating in so many ways and having its own individual attention because the way that you carry yourself projects a certain image and people can read what's going on. They just feel the energy coming off of you. Whether you intend for it or not, I think that it's just better for men that want to be men of influence, that want to be heads of household, that want to do these things that are traditional masculine roles and responsibilities. It makes sense to carry yourself appropriately. Mm-hmm. And I think that we live in a very casual society in a lot of ways where we have lost out on decorum in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I definitely would say, the world that we were brought up in, there was definitely a sliding level of decorum to the point where now our current culture today, we're even losing civility.
Yes.
Like the things that people say to each other because they're randos on the internet.
Oh, sure. It becomes because of accountability or lack of accountability on that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to go ahead and hunt them down and punch them in the nose.
It's just abhorrent.
Right. But think about it this way. It's the same thing with road rage. Like road rage is what it is because you, for the most part, are anonymous. You're just some person in another car. Most people aren't going to go ahead and also road rage and run you off the road as a result of whatever nonsense. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you were to say some of the vile things that get said online to somebody across the table from you, that space would get shortened very quickly.
Get punched in the mouth.
Get punched in the mouth, and you'd probably deserve it. Like, let's be honest, right? And that's why I think that it is much better for men to conduct themselves as gentlemen online. Even if you have serious contention or disagreement with people, there are ways to disagree without being outright disagreeable. And like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean you always have to take the high road, right? If somebody goes ahead and punches low, by all means, punch them out. Like, hold your ground. But the thing is,
Don't start crap, but you can finish it.
yeah,
That's what we tell our kids.
Don't be the one to throw the first punch. But I think that by holding yourself accountable to these ideas and these principles, that people, generally speaking, that are not accustomed to this, will go ahead and see that you're different, especially in this society where we're so casual about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, as you go ahead and climb the different levels of society, the rules are enforced much more strictly as you go up. And I think that that's a good thing for people to learn when they're down here, so that when they ascend, they don't hit a ceiling quite so fast. Because if you go ahead and you behave a certain kind of way in the wrong rooms, it cuts off your opportunity so fast.
The one practical application that I would say, like, tied to this,
Okay.
let's bring back written thank you notes,
Yeah, I think that's very classy.
right? Just, I actually have always, whenever, especially when we've had like a party, like for our kids, I've at least written it myself and let them sign it. But we've always sent out written thank you notes. My daughters particularly are in the habit of, hey, I got this thing. Like, even our 7-year-old tomorrow, she was like, I got this thing from my
So-and-so.
teacher. Can we write her a card to tell her thank you? I'm like, I'm doing something right.
Good. Well, I mean,
I'm
it's just
so happy.
it's one
that
of
she
those
did that.
things where when you go ahead and teach them that that is the standard, they pick it up. And as long as you're acting consistently in that manner, it's second nature to them. And so that's why it's so important as parents to go ahead and model the behaviors that you intend to inculcate into your children. Because if you are doing the things that you are saying, it is easier for them to follow your actions and to listen to your words at the same time, because they're most often
match
together. Right? And then if there's an exception to the rule, you can go ahead and articulate that exception, and they were much more likely to follow along with it. And it's the same way in marriage, right? If a guy is consistently holding frame and boundaries and things of that nature and showing his wife genuine love and care, it is much easier for her to submit.
And it's easier for her to trust them
Yeah.
in things where, like, we don't know what's going to happen and it's like really scary. She's not going to sit there and panic because she has to handle everything.
Right.
She has someone to handle it. Where it's just like, here's my spaghetti bowl. I'm sorry. Can you help untie this?
You're like, oh gosh, my hands are getting messy. So much sauce.
Right.
What's going on here? But I think that's right. I mean, it's just one of those things where a lot of times by holding yourself at a certain level, it makes it easy for other people to trust you. And this is not only the parent relationship, the husband-wife relationship, it's also the employer-employee relationship.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much any friendship as well. Like, any level of relationship can benefit from this holding yourself to higher standards thing. And the people that will go ahead and look at you holding yourselves at a higher standard and then kind of backbite against it are generally not the kind of people that you really want to be associating with in the first place.
Yeah, let them. Just let them.
Let them, right? So long as it doesn't go ahead and tangibly affect you negatively, it's not a big deal. Like, at some point you get to a certain level where, like, okay, I don't care. Like, whatever. It's not like you're going to cancel me. No big deal. Like, what tangible effect do you have on me? And chances are 9 out of 10 times the answer is none.
Right.
And I think it's interesting because most often hate comes from below. It is very rare that somebody's going to go ahead and make hater comments from above, right? Because I think generally, as a social rule, we don't punch down, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there aren't occasions where that is appropriate, but as a general rule, we just don't do that.
It's really interesting when I make comments on different, like, posts that are supportive of traditional relationships and, female submission and all of that stuff. It's usually the ones who come and, like, dump on me are the single women that are just like, call me a pick-me and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but I'm married.
Very happily so. It's just
Happily, and I'm fine. Like, why is this upsetting you?
you know exactly why it's upsetting
Let's
them,
think about that.
right?
Like,
And when you ask them that rhetorical question, it just gets them even madder.
yeah. So it's just like, that's fine. Go ahead. Go off, sis.
And sometimes you decide whether it's appropriate to go ahead and actually ask that question in the comments section or not, because there is a time and a place depending on how they come at you.
Yeah, it's really funny because the one that really did try super hard, she was like, my boyfriend looks better than your husband. I'm like,
okay, that's boyfriend.
But he's your boyfriend. Why won't he marry you?
Or
crickets.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Crickets.
Sure. And it matters how old the lady is too.
Yeah.
Right? Like if she's 40 and she's got a boyfriend and it's like, okay, so what you're telling me.
She was in her 20s with like a couple of kids.
Oh, okay. Well then, I mean, that's additional context.
There's that too. And I'm like, I'm not here to judge your lifestyle. You came for me and I didn't send for you. So.
Sure. And I think it's interesting because a lot of times people will go ahead and take holding yourself to higher standards and like acting with confidence as arrogance.
Yep.
Right. And I think that is different in a lot of ways because arrogance reflects confidence that is beyond your capabilities or beyond your station. Whereas true confidence is reflective of your capabilities and of your learned experiences and all of those kind of things.
Yeah. Arrogance is you just talk this big old game and there's nothing to back it up with.
Right.
Whereas confidence goes hand in hand with competence.
Yes.
Like you say that all the time. And
because it's earned.
Yeah. Because you've actually proven that your walk lines up with your talk.
Right. And people will be able to tell the difference in interactions with you if they're attuned to that kind of thing.
But most of the time, you know, especially the hate that comes from below, people don't care to even look into it. Like people don't even like it's just this drive-by insults and all of that. It's just like,
well, it's an emotional reaction. It's an emotional reaction. It's not. There's no like logos to it at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who are you again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I think there's practical applications to this where like not only do you set standards for yourself, but you set standards for the people that you allow in your circle. And you set standards for your family, for your various relationships. And it doesn't have to be explicit. I think most of the time it's better for it to be implicit until there's conflict. And then when there's conflict, you go ahead and actually mete it out appropriately.
A great application of this principle is honestly just you're reframing your own mind that your time is valuable, that your time actually has a monetary worth to it, and that not everybody is entitled to access to you.
Sure. And monetary value associated with your time is a decent framework for most people, but I think that eventually there comes a point where that monetary framework breaks down and there's something that is more important to that. It's like, what is the spiritual implications of this time that is being spent, right? Or what am I giving up in exchange for this? Mm-hmm. I think becomes the framing that is more useful over time, right? Because if I'm going ahead and spending time on this thing, that is time that necessarily is not being spent time with my family or with my friends or with actually moving forward on my mission. Mm-hmm. And the monetary framework makes sense for a certain level, but then afterwards it's a matter of impact and time efficiency and the opportunity cost associated with how you spend your time. And it may not be reflective in terms of monetary impact.
The main reason I said something like that is because honestly, that right there was when was the beginning step. It's not an end all be all.
No, and I get
it's worth qualifying. That really is, it's valid to qualify that. But honestly, when you just start start valuing your time as you would your money, that is the definite start of a paradigm shift there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to go ahead and just push back on the thing just so that it's clear to the audience that, hey, look, there are two general buckets of people when we're talking about this kind of topic. There is the people that have more money than time and people that have more time than money. And whatever is the more valuable framework to you, given your circumstances, that's the framework that is reasonable to use for a given situation. That's all I was really getting at.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that in terms of practical applications, I think that another thing is when you are in your family and as a leader of your home, when you go ahead and over-explain your actions, it really cuts down on your confidence and it cuts down on the confidence that other people have in you in your decision-making. It's as if you're asking for validation by providing too much detail when it's not asked of you. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So what would you say is the key difference between confidence and pride? We discussed it a little bit when we talked about the difference between confidence and arrogance, but I think that there's enough distinction here that it makes sense to go into.
I think it's in a nutshell, it's the kind of motive behind it, if it's an outward or an inward MO.
Okay.
Where, if you have confidence, it's because you have something to offer the world.
Right.
Your family, your coworkers, whatever it is, a social, group of people, the body of faith, whatever it is, you have something to offer, and you are good at this thing, and you want to be of service.
Correct.
Whether or not you're compensated for that, immaterial to this right here.
Correct.
Whereas, pride is you want to display your skills for people so that they will
So they praise you.
That you would be lauded for that.
Right. And don't get me wrong, if you go ahead and display your skills and talents for the right reasons, a lot of times as a tangential benefit, you get praised for your efforts, right? But the trick is, what is your primary aim in doing it is what you're getting at?
Yes.
Got it. So why do you think that some women punish men for displaying confidence in its various forms?
Because they have to acknowledge that they're not the best at everything.
Okay.
They have to consider someone else for a change.
Okay, that's interesting. Go ahead and dig in on that a little bit, because I think that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. You know how when you say something about somebody, it says more about you than them?
Sometimes when you're projecting, you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it really does come across like that, especially just think about all the people who look at us and go, must be nice.
Well, because they fail to account for the effort that went into it.
They, when they see people, when these kind of people who want to be critical see people doing well, doing things that maybe they have never been able to do, they want to just bop them down a notch, knock them down a few pegs.
Yeah.
So that they feel like they're not lacking in other ways.
So that's really interesting, because this brings up something that's been on my mind for a couple of days now. So in 1910, Theodore Roosevelt went ahead and gave a speech, and one of the more poignant parts of the speech was called "The Man in the Arena." Have you ever heard of this speech?
Okay,
it's probably been a while. So the idea is that critics will make themselves feel better even though they've never done the work to achieve something that is worth doing. And the man that is in the arena doing the fighting and actually taking the bumps and bruises to get stuff done, it's not that he is immune to criticism. It is that the critic is usually in no position to criticize the man who is doing the work, because he fails to recognize that which is required as a cost to reap the benefit. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody in the comment section of something on Twitter earlier today was saying that they wanted to go ahead and have this huge platform and all of that and have all this influence. And the guy that was responding said, okay, well, yeah, just go ahead and build your platform. And the guy's like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I just want to have it now. And it's like, this is the instant gratification nonsense that goes on in our society. And it's like, success is like a fine vessel. And people fail to recognize that it takes labor, great skill, and materials to culminate into that fine vessel, just like success. Mm-hmm. The things take a lot to make happen. And it is only when you do the work in the first place that you truly get to benefit from it in the back end, right? Because even if you're talking about some kid that goes ahead and inherits a fortune from his family, but has no knowledge of how to actually steward those resources, it's gone in less than a generation, because they failed to do the necessary work to preserve, not even to build, but to preserve that completely separate set of skills, and you fail to meet the lower standard. And that's insane.
Yeah.
So I think we went ahead and hit that law pretty good. Let's go ahead and go on to the next law. Law number 35, master the art of timing. So this is about when to poke the bear. Sometimes it's a good time to poke the bear. Sometimes you might not want to do that. And so power is not just in what you do, but a lot of times it's when you do it, because poor timing can often just ruin a situation, even if you have the best strategy.
It makes me think of those. Usually, most of the time, we really have this dynamic where we know enough about how each other operates that we almost work in tandem, like as if it was like synchronized by someone else.
Right.
And then and it's almost I know it is with me, like it's palpable for me. I'm like, we're all right, cool. And then there are some times where we are just so out of sync that even like spatially, I am like always in your way and I'm trying to get out of your way and I'm more in your way. Like it is like there's this disconnect and I can feel it. I can, it's like it's almost palpable for me.
And it's really funny because it was only up until like a year ago that this kind of thing would really just like frustrate me. And then at this point, it's just like, hold up, let me recognize that something's off. Let me just hold on to you, pull you aside, take you to the hallway, push you up against the wall and hug you for a little bit. And then be like, I love you, kiddo. And then, usually that's enough to go ahead and get things back on track.
System reset.
Yeah.
Hard reset.
It's a hard factory reset. I mean, usually that comes later, but it's just one of those deals where sometimes you just got to go ahead and start the oven earlier. Right?
But it's just, and I mean, that is, it happens in every relationship, honestly. It's like sometimes you just can't get it together.
Sure, but the wisdom is knowing the difference.
Yeah.
And knowing how to deal with it. Because I think that, in times past, I wouldn't deal with it so well. I'd just go ahead and express frustration. And it wasn't frustration with you. It was frustration with the circumstance. And often you would go ahead and take it as if it was hatred of you.
I was being a terrible person.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't that you were the problem.
Personally, yeah.
And so that would go ahead and lead to negative consequences that didn't have to happen. But it's one of those things that it's wisdom that you gain over time and why we share this kind of stuff with other people so that hopefully they don't have to make the same mistakes. Yeah.
And it honestly comes a lot from my, experience in my family of origin.
Right.
Where, a single working mom was trying to drop me off with other like caregivers and stuff. And it was usually like friends on whose like charity we are trespassing. Right. So I'm like making sure to behave myself and stay out of the way and not be a problem. And so just that right there and the situation, the disconnect that's going on with us is very reflective of that. And it's putting me in that negative headspace already. And so it's like exacerbating itself.
Right. And it's tough because it's like, that has nothing to do with me and my behaviors. It just has everything to do with your mental space at the time.
Perception of it, yeah.
Right. And the wisdom is being able to recognize it, take some time, and whether we just need to go ahead and have like a 5-minute break on something and be like, hey, why don't you go have a sit or go do something for a little bit and I'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's just all it takes. And then other times it's just, hey, come here, kiddo, and then give you a hug and there it is. Because it is very rare that it is something that is characteristic of you that I'm talking about. And if it is, I'm being very intentional with my wording and being very specific about it.
Yeah. Calling that specific thing out.
Right. Because I'm not trying to go ahead and deal damage in terms of the relationship. I am trying to fix a deficiency with surgical precision and be like, this right here is exactly what I'm going for. And even then, even with that precision, a lot of times it goes and hits on some of your nerves from the past. And, a lot of times it's like breaking through a glacier and you got to go ahead and chip at the ice, slowly sometimes, but the reward at the end of it is worthwhile. And so even though it may cause an emotional storm, if the deficiency is important enough to prioritize, I'm going to do that because I know that doing that is going to benefit both of us, even though I have to deal with the consequences up front.
That is the difference between a good husband and a great husband.
Right. So I think that it's one of those things where a lot of times emotional men will go ahead and rush into a circumstance and be reactive instead of taking time to really know when the right time to get at a thing is. And gentlemen, rarely the right time is in front of other people.
Right.
Most of the time it's, hey, can we go ahead and have a chat right quick? You can get away from the public spot. Go ahead and do a little bit of reframing on what's going on, what the deficiency is, and see if you can go ahead and fix it on the spot. And if you can't, just be like, hey, I need you to go ahead and just work with me on this. We'll talk about it later. And if you have been doing your part along the way to set a firm foundation in your relationship, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be fine.
Definitely. When you are in front of other people, you are going to naturally feel, no matter what, you will, whether you recognize it or not, you will naturally feel like you are under a finer microscope, with a very hot lamp over you, right?
Right.
It's going to be a more volatile situation to confront, little make corrections and stuff in front of other people. Just don't. Because it'll be then the little backbiting and whatever, and then you're going to have to cover it up with, we're cute like that. Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
But I want to just specifically mention that this is also a thing that you have to watch out for, men and women with children.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, toddlers don't care. They're just they're on their own little bubble. Like, they don't have a sense of other people existing in the world until they're like, I don't know, 5-ish usually. Then they start to see that there's a big wide world out there. And then by 7, 8, 9, that is the time when they start that preteen thing. Mm-hmm. Where, the tweens are just almost feeling that under a microscope, but they can't recognize it. You have to know that when you try and make a correction, you do not do it in front of a bunch of their peers or even other adults. You have to pull them aside and be like, I'm going to tell you this right now, that you need to fix this, or else then I'm going to have to, make a bigger deal out of this. Like, you give them warning shots because they're not going to pick up on it right away.
Sure. And the thing is that timing isn't just in this. A lot of times, being strategically silent in an interaction is useful.
Every mother knows the mom stare.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. And there's also in negotiation and in sales, where when you negotiate, some of the best deals that we've ever gotten in terms of real estate have been, we go ahead and put in an offer, and then we stay silent. And they go ahead and ask for unofficial feedback, and we don't give them anything until they give us something formal. And then we'll go back and forth. And then when things eventually break down, we stay silent, but we still watch what's going on with that property if we're still interested. And then eventually they'll go ahead and send something to my agent and say, hey, are you still interested in this thing? And then I can be like, why, yes, here are the terms of the agreement. And normally it's for a lower amount or more advantageous terms for me or stuff like that.
Because this is the second pass.
Because the second or third pass, right? And I'm not desperate and I'm not emotional about it. It is a business decision. So I need to know to maintain my emotionality about it. Mm-hmm. Now, this is what a lot of people get wrong about buying a home, is they get emotionally invested. And obviously there's a difference between a buyer's market and a seller's market. And I understand that sometimes wives just get really attached to things. They're like, oh my gosh, let's overpay for it. We're going to do the thing. And it's up to
hold the frame,
the husband, to know whether it makes sense to overpay or not, because sometimes it will make sense. It's just a matter of anything else. The winner of an auction is the one that's willing to pay the most.
There is going to be a degree with a man that you trust that they are going to take into account how much you love this place and how much you can totally see holidays here and all of that stuff. Like, they're going to take that into account. But honestly, if the numbers don't make sense, they don't make sense.
Right.
But that's the story of how we got our house.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because there was another house that we were, back and forth on, and
I was in love with it.
And she was in love with it.
I was busting out the tape measure, seeing where the fridge was going to go, and
yeah, but it required a $20,000 HVAC system, and the sellers were unwilling to do anything about it. So it's like, okay, it's just not going to work for me. And
I cried for a couple of weeks, not going to lie, and it was very heartbreaking. But I'm still here.
And then we got a hell of a deal on the house we live in now, which is a beautiful house.
I was like, I specifically remember walking in the front door and going, can we live here? Really?
It's like, hell yeah, of course we can live here.
Oh, man.
Another deal. That was exactly it. It was, they went ahead and their seller's agent went ahead and came to us and they were like, hey, are you still interested in this? Because they had relationship issues where the husband, they were in 2 households and they needed to sell. And we were the ones that expressed interest. And so it worked out well for us.
Yeah, they came back and were like, do you want to make another offer? Maybe they might be willing to hear it. It's like, well, okay.
Cool. And then at a lower price and all of this and better terms.
But yeah, we structured it that, they got a little something out of it. But also I found out they were a friend of a friend, actually.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. Once they were reunited, within a year, they had another baby.
Oh, that's so nice. Good for them.
Yeah. It was awesome. I was very happy for them. It's like, seems like they're going to be good.
Yeah. So being strategically silent is also useful in terms of timing and looking forward to the better reward and taking time to really assess what you're giving up by sacrificing your timing. And this is something that I go ahead and use all the time when I play Magic. It is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
Where people will get really upset where I go ahead and wait for the exact right moment to interact and just foil their plans. It is the best. And most of the time, it's with like some really high leverage, low cost play that just completely decimates them with just
Foil
a little
plans.
pinprick, like popping a balloon. It is
you?
the best. And just watching that table flip kind of like energy in the back of their brain, it's just like, yes, this is glorious.
It's like the Kill Bill thing where she sees red and the alarm bell goes.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is most of the time it's with something that if they would have taken a few more moments to assess what is going on, they could have they could have seen that was a predictable play.
That was always a distinct possibility.
It was always a distinct possibility, and it was on the table and not a secret.
That's funny.
Yeah. So what do you think causes men to struggle so much with timing, emotionally speaking?
The blanket answer is kind of like, it's kind of not y'all's wheelhouse.
Okay. What do you mean by
Like,
that?
If it makes logical sense, well, who cares what the emotional answer is? Like what the
facts don't care about your
what
feelings
the
kind of thing.
emotionally intelligent answer is, right?
Right.
It's like, this is what needs to happen. And sometimes, what needs to happen and the logical answer isn't always the most sensitive one.
Sure.
And it could be because it's an emergent situation, but most of the time it's not. But the thing is, just because it's like the answer to what wifey wants is no, doesn't mean, and it gets lost in translation a lot of the time, I think, by and large with most women, that, oh, he told me no because he doesn't love me, because he doesn't want something nice for me. And
Or because
that
he doesn't care.
That
Yeah.
is the absolute furthest from the truth.
Right.
It's just this, and honestly, you guys take the whole like silent, thing, does not need further explanation. And then she just will take it and internalize that. The hamster wheel will spin out of control, not in
A good way.
the relationship's favor. And so sometimes it's just, I think there's been times where it was like a big thing that I was like talking about, almost like asking about. And the answer was no. And it was like, do you want the full answer or is that good? Like, do you want the full explanation of what's happening or not? And then sometimes it's like, no, let me just go feel bad about it for a minute.
Right. And the thing is, like, you're wise enough to know that it's not personal.
Yes.
And that it is reflective of the circumstances, not necessarily reflective of the fact that you were making a request in the first place.
But sadly, like, not a whole lot of wives are inclined to believe the best about their husbands like that, which is the sad thing.
That is the sad thing.
And I think that if they took the time to like really ask what the thought process was, not every single time, that does not, sometimes there just isn't time. But, in those big things when you really are just like, it makes no sense to me what's happening.
Right.
And then if you ask for that explanation, you're like, oh, I had no idea that all of that was in the background.
Sure.
And it's just interesting that sometimes it's just almost like, no, what are you talking about? I was like biting my head. I'm like, well, why? And then it was just like, oh, I was dealing with all this stuff. I'm like, I had no idea. Okay, well, that makes a lot more sense. That
Sure. Or another like time that scenario would happen is you ask me the same thing 6 or 7 times and I've given you the no answer 5 or 6 times. And it's the 6th or 7th time that I'm like, no, that's it. Like what part of this do you not understand?
But it's funny that there are some times where it's just like, ask no. And then after a little bit, it's like, well, hang on.
Well, right. It's just a matter of like, hey, give me a sec. I don't have the mental capacity to think through this right this second. Mm-hmm. I need you to go ahead and come at me with this a little bit later. And sometimes you are insistent on asking the question at a given point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you're insisting. My answer default is no.
Yeah. My ADHD brain just won't let me like sit on it for a little bit. But generally, I've gotten the formula.
Yeah, I think you've got it figured out now. But this is reflective of years of experience to get there.
Definitely.
Right.
Years of trial and error. A lot of error.
And these are the kinds of things that we want to go ahead and display for our children so that hopefully when they get started in marriage, they don't have all of these like things that they have to learn from scratch.
But even if it's like, I need you to be there for this, or even like, I want to buy that, either one, it's a little bit before it needs to happen. Throw it out there. And then it's just like, it enters between your ears and you go, huh. And then I just leave it.
Yeah, because it's going to go in the background because I think about things all the time. And it's just one of those things where it'll eventually go ahead and hit its time in the priority order to actually have consideration, right? Because let's be honest, not everything that you ask of me is a high priority. Just like not everything I ask of you is a high priority. And I go ahead and make sure that when it is, I communicate that to you, right? And the things typically come into my mind in priority order. And some things will fall out and some things will go ahead and need a reminder, but it's just one of those things where generally speaking, it's going to go ahead and come in the order that it arrived and based on priority. And I think that you understand that at this point.
Yeah. So then a little while later, like when it's getting to be time, it's like, then I put like a date on it or, you know, a time frame.
Yeah.
And then like right as it's like, hey, can we? And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Sure. And I think that a lot of times it's really important to go ahead and emphasize to like the audience that it doesn't mean that I don't prioritize you, right? It is that there's a lot of things that are at play that need ample consideration. And you don't automatically get the highest priority just because it's something, right? Especially if it's something trivial. Like, let's be really honest. It doesn't matter if you go ahead and buy some top today or tomorrow, or it doesn't usually matter if you buy it at 2 p.m. as opposed to 7 p.m. Like, let's be honest. That's just not rational most of the time.
But yeah, just in line with my, you know, my lifestyle, like most of things are not. And even if they are, there's enough lead time to kind of bring it up slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my end, right? And it's just one of those things where I just hold that as a general maxim. And it's just like when somebody goes ahead and asks something of me and they assume that it should be a high priority to me when there is no clear indication that it is, I'll just be like, hey, go ahead and send me an email. I'll address it at some point. I'm not going to go ahead and address it right now.
And then it's really interesting to see people's like brains explode or they get upset or whatever just because they tell you to jump and you don't do it immediately.
Yeah, I'm under no obligation to go ahead and do that.
Whoa.
Because they see themselves as much higher than they are.
Yeah.
Right? It just reminds me of that one story that we've told, you know, a few months ago where there was this guy that wanted to go ahead and sell some of his wares at our shop. And he went ahead and proposed the thing to me. And I'm like, hey, I'm not the person to talk to about this. I need you to go ahead and talk to my general manager about that. He's the one that goes in and handles that. And he's like, oh, you just don't want to spend the time. And it's like, no, it isn't that I don't want to spend the time. One, it's I don't want to spend the time right now anyway, because I've got other things that are higher priority. Two, this is not my department. This is this person's department. I am not going to go ahead and disrespect him and his position because this is something that he handles. And I don't want to mess up his projects for him because that would be disrespectful to him. And I will not disrespect him. And just like looking him in the eye and telling him that.
He got the
message.
Slunk off.
Right? Because the thing is, it's like, no, you're trying to go ahead and assume that you're here in the process.
Yeah.
And it isn't about whether you're here or not. The assumption is, or the reality is completely different. Let me recontextualize that for you and to express why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. Because clearly you've lost the plot on this.
I think a lot of people, the big thing that when people criticize or people get upset about something, a lot of it is they misunderstand that context. They're applying their own understanding of situations and not even considering that is not the case. Mm-hmm. Just like a lot of people see you as the owner of the business and they automatically, especially in the game world, automatically assume owner-operator.
Right, which is not the case.
Which is not the case. It's never been the case either. It's not like, oh, well, you've turned it over to somebody now. No, it's never been the case. Right. There has always been somebody else to operate.
Correct.
So it's kind of like, y'all need to get out of your own heads.
But it's not an unreasonable assumption.
No,
because it is so common in the industry, I can understand how someone would come to that assumption. But when I go ahead and reframe it for them, I need they need to understand that maybe their assumptions are not correct and that we can change the context for them.
Yeah.
Most people understand that. Once you get to a certain level, which is generally the customers that we go ahead and go after is people of a certain level, that's just what it is. They understand the difference. And because we like working with reasonable people, that's what we do.
It's like if somebody's going to sit here and come with their own entitlement, and then even when they are apprised of the situation in its entirety and they're still upsetty spaghetti, okay, well, then you're not our people anyway.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe let me recommend you another course of action. And it's not because I dislike you. It is because that it's not a good fit. Mm-hmm. It's just like marriage, right? So if somebody comes up and they want, say if I were single again and they wanted to be a boss babe and try to go ahead and lasso me in, that's a hard no from me. Like there's nothing attractive to me about that because that's not what I'm looking for in a mate. That's just what it is. There's nothing about that that's attractive at all.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because then they'll be like, well, I have degrees up the wazoo and I look like a supermodel and all of that stuff. And it's like,
sure, whatever. I'd much rather a compliant 6 than a 10 that's a boss babe.
Hi.
Okay.
Or less.
We can work on that. That's a workable thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's just one of those things. Work in progress. That's the deal. But I think that that's really important to be able to contextualize things properly and then use that as a means to express yourself and to express connection with others.
That's the thing is like holding yourself to a higher standard is honestly, it already differentiates yourself in a culture that, like I said, like doesn't even hold on to civility anymore.
Right.
Just you being considerate of other people, even if it's, person across the fast food ordering counter, like you're already a cut above a lot of the people that they deal with all day.
Oh, yeah. It is crazy. Like just how often those little interactions, I can see that their day is made better because of being greeted by somebody that treats them with grace and civility.
Right. It was funny. I was making an appointment for our oldest, and the lady on the phone, I actually toward the end of the call when I was like, I am so grateful that you were able to get, us in and seen so much sooner. I know how busy you guys are and how backlogged you guys get, and I'm appreciative that you're able to see us much sooner. And her whole tone of voice changed, like, because usually it's like, oh, we'll book you out, almost a year.
Sure.
And it's like,
and then the entitlement voice comes out.
Off. It's like, but I have a. It's like,
man,
that's not going to make that better.
Right.
Yeah. It's sad now, even from the time when we went on our cruise.
Right.
And we were in the TSA space, and there was a sign not to berate or assault agents.
That's just
who
crazy.
Are doing their job. Yeah. I went to an appointment earlier. There was the same thing at a pediatrician's office.
That's insane that has to be the case.
I'm like, your child is going to be watching you berate this person. Really?
I don't know. I'm kind of convinced that this has a lot to do with single parent households more than anything else, if I'm being real honest.
Yeah. But nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody want to have that conversation. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next law. Next law is law number 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. So the general idea is the things that you obsess over unintentionally gain power over you. And when you detach yourself emotionally from these things, it allows you to regain leverage in a lot of situations where you would not have it if you're emotionally attached to outcomes. So I think that in a lot of ways, this manifests itself in your intentionality towards something. When a guy over pursues a woman that has clearly stated disinterest. So if the guy asks for her number and she declines politely, but then he keeps trying, and then she has to progressively be less polite about the refusal.
Yeah, more overt.
Yes, and it rarely ends up good for the guy.
Yeah.
In that case.
And then he has to save face by saying something, why you got to be rude about it? It's like, because the nice way didn't go well.
Correct, because he didn't read the room the first time. And a lot of times this comes from a scarcity mentality on the part of dudes is, oh, well, they don't get the benefit of optionality. So they're going to try to dig in on things that show any level of interest. This is a lot of times when a guy sees that a woman is even like politely nice to them, and then they misread that situation as genuine interest.
Yeah.
Completely different thing. But if you're a guy with options, like, you rarely get that signal. Usually you get different signals, and it's very understandable and palpable to everybody around them. Pretty obvious stuff. But so few guys really are attuned to that to know the difference, because they're often emotionally attached and end up getting this like one-itis where they're like focused on this one chick, and for like months they go ahead and obsess over her. And instead of just moving on and doing other things, and maybe she'll see the stuff that you're doing and come alongside. Probably not, because if you're obsessive, it's a signal to her to run away.
It's like, be honest, guys listening to this, watching this right now, it's like, doesn't that give you the ick factor? Be honest, like, that's icky. To
Sure.
just sit there and like.
But a lot of times they don't recognize it when they're in it.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is a lot of times you are in the thing and you are misreading all kinds of signals because you're in the friend zone instead of in another zone. And because of your hope that something will come from it, you take everything that looks slightly positive as like genuine signs of interest. Whereas it ain't happened for you, bud. Just move on.
But I do have to, apologize for all of the terrible specimens of womanhood that are here, like that are available in the world today.
Why do you apologize for them?
Well, I don't apologize for them, but I'm just like sorry to guys that they have to deal with, just because, oh my gosh, there's a woman who's actually acting like a lady. Then they have to like read into that rather than, because most of the time, I'm pretty sure all guys are dealing with women who are just not ladies.
Yeah, I think there are relatively few ladies, just like there are relatively few gentlemen. That's just a matter of what our society is like right now. And I think that men are much better off going ahead and developing themselves so that they can go ahead and know the difference.
That's the hope.
Sure.
But also I do really hope that the ladies who are trying to act polite, towards guys, and the times that they like get burned because of it, it's like, please don't give that up.
Right.
Please don't, you can definitely assert yourself and or like have your phone on 911, like help, please. But I'm really hoping that we have an increase in more people who are being polite to one another, so that it doesn't have to be read as this like sign of interest,
right,
or misread there, as the case may be.
Sure. And it's interesting because like the idea of letting go obsession over something is so powerful in a lot of ways. Like going back to the idea of the real estate transactions that we had, where we just kind of walked away from the thing and didn't put any more energy into it. Those are the times that the best deals found us. And so it's just reinforcing this specific principle. Now, in dating, I think that this shows itself where if you act needy as a guy, you go ahead and influence her to have a Sahara Desert. Because if you are expressing overt neediness, most women don't want that. They want to be wanted, not needed. Right? Whereas guys want to be needed and wanted. So it's interesting how those dynamics are very different.
It's almost like we're different creatures.
Well, right. But I think a lot of times people misinterpret what the other person is doing because they see it from their own lens. So this manifests itself in like women thinking that their career makes them more attractive to men, or that their education makes them more attractive to men. And it's like,
because that's what they prioritize.
That's what they prioritize as something that they look for in the opposite sex. Right. And
they don't recognize that all of those qualifications that you say makes you eligible for higher value men, they don't care. Like it's actually quite the opposite.
Right. Because attraction between men and women is asymmetrical. We're not looking for the same things in each other. Right. And it makes sense because we're different people. But a lot of times people operate from blank slate equalism and egalitarianism. And they're like, oh, look, we're all equal. And, we should have this 50-50 relationship. And then down the road, they get really emotionally upset about it because it turns out that though they say they want it to be equal, they really don't.
Yeah. These days, there's that whole idealizing a golden retriever man. No. because that is just what modern women want, to just be able to steamroll them.
Right. Because they want power.
Because they'll sit and roll over and shake on command.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, that's not respect at all.
Right.
It's not something you'll respect.
Whereas on the flip side, I think that most guys would really like a golden retriever woman. Right? I think that would be a thing that is palatable to them. And so long as you as a guy are doing your part to really appreciate that in a way that signals to them that it makes sense for them to continue in that behavior pattern, that's a good thing for both sides of the equation.
Honestly, Dundee's this Christmas for
one of our employees.
One of our employees actually included ones for me on there.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't usually make up ones for us, but he set a Golden Retriever Energy Award for me. I was like, that is actually like quite flattering.
Yeah. And that's funny. And then we have a couple of other employees on staff that are like really Golden Retriever energy. And like, I really appreciate them for what they bring to the table. And one of them, I get kind of concerned for him because I'm like, man, hopefully you don't approach other things in life like this. Because
don't do that as a man.
Don't do that as a man for other things. In this context, it's really good, but in other contexts, not so much.
It fits the job, description really well.
Right.
But don't live your life like that.
Yeah. And then taking this law in marriage, I think a lot of times guys shouldn't have to beg for respect. Right. And if they go ahead and demand respect, it's equally bad. Right. Because respect is something that should flow freely from the woman to the man. Because in reality, that's the thing that most men want from women, and women want love from men.
It's almost like that was written in the Bible somewhere.
It is written in the Bible a few times somewhere. It's almost like it's a timeless truth that we should understand. And it's interesting how those things are asymmetrical, but we want to go ahead, and a lot of times in the modern church, they're like, oh, we're just going to go ahead and treat everybody equally because that's how it goes. No, there's different rules for different people at different times.
It's especially shameful in the body of faith.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is literally how God created us to be.
Yeah, it's in the divine order, and we can see it all throughout.
Yeah, if that is what you absolutely subscribe to, the God of the Bible, like, that is what he says about us. That is what he says our primal needs are.
Right.
And that is why we are mandated. But also, there's a lot of, while we wear skin, we have a lot of things in our nature that need to be conquered almost.
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
That's part of that whole last fruit of the spirit self-control thing, is that, I'm going to want to be part of that equal partnership and stuff. I want to be part of the decision-making process. I mean, and honestly, when we were first married, I had a lot of notions that would be the case. And it took a long time to kind of realize how this was supposed to work and how much better it is.
Right. And I think a lot of that came from your family of origin.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And it's just one of those things where you didn't have a good blueprint for that. And that's why we go ahead and do the things that we do so that we can provide a solid blueprint to our children so that our children's spouses can also benefit.
Yeah.
So that they can have healthy families. Right? Because we are setting them up for success where our parents did not set us up for success.
Yeah. And hopefully our grandkids will grow up in families, again, where their parents will not only, be married to each other, but they'll like being married to each other.
Yeah. And I think that would be one of the best generational legacies that we can go ahead and hand down to our children and grandchildren.
Because I don't believe that there probably were ever 2 generations consecutively where that was the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. I think it's just more common nowadays because of all the discord that's going on with the feminist movement and stuff like that, and the sexual revolution, all the things that came from that.
But especially to turn out that result in this culture.
Oh, yeah.
Would be just our life's greatest achievement.
I think so, too. I think there's a lot to that. Now, a question before we move on to the landing of the plane is, when do you think that disengagement becomes stonewalling?
When it is used as a weapon.
Okay.
When it is weaponized or used as a cudgel.
Okay. So do you think there's a difference between it being weaponized and it being something that you believe is your required thing that you need to do to feel okay?
Yeah, it's like a selfish, not a self-protection, but a selfish protection tactic.
Right. So if you had hurt feelings about something and you just went ahead and retreated and tried to go ahead and be asleep or whatever to go ahead and run away from something.
Which I often used to do, actually.
That's an example of stonewalling.
That was my MO,
Right.
really. And that was my preferred method of conflict, not even resolution, but solution.
Yeah, and it didn't solve anything.
It didn't solve anything. It was terrible. And, we actually went to counseling to learn how to fight.
Sure, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah. It was the first year of our marriage.
Right. But that coping mechanism is something that sometimes comes up, and it's just a matter of like me trying to go ahead and look at you and be like, look, you're in your feelings right now. I get that. I'm gonna be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That was literally what the mediator told us to do, was like, when you get to that point and you're like too wrapped up in your feelings, stop and make an appointment. Like literally say, I will meet you here at the dining room table at 3:00. Like, and we will continue this.
Sure. And it's just like sometimes you're just so wrapped up in your emotions you can't like actually assent to that verbally. You're just like wrapped up. But still, it's just one of those things where that's part of leading your wife a lot of times is, hey, if you see that this was a typical MO, then you got to figure out how to deal with that, because stonewalling is not a healthy tactic to go ahead and like deal with conflict at all, because nothing ever gets resolved that way.
And I mean, just like doing that, running, somewhere else and being away from, your spouse because things are difficult is the same as withholding sex. Or saying, well, you didn't do this, so I'm not going to cook you dinner.
Right.
Like those kind of things. It's what children do.
It's all childish. It's all like insubordination and rebellion in different ways.
And it's not productive. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's like, do you want to be right? Do you want to be quote unquote safe? Or do you want to be married?
Sure. And a lot of those times it's just a matter of, it's also reflective of your relationship with the divine too. If we're being real honest.
True.
Right? If those times are times where you are just not willing to submit and you're going to go ahead and do something rebellious, usually that comes out in other facets of life as well, if we're being really honest with ourselves. And sometimes we just got to go ahead and say, what actually is our priority here? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Is this something that is worth pursuing right now? A lot of times the answer is no. Sometimes you can go ahead and give it the 5 minutes to pursue. And just be wise about the timing of it and emotionally disconnect from something for a little bit so that you can re-engage in a healthy way. I think it's just like one of the best ways to deal with this kind of thing. But the definite thing is just to don't let it languish, because there's a difference between disconnecting and disassociating completely, especially in the context of like conflict resolution in marriage.
That's when it will fester.
Oh, yeah. It'll fester and you go ahead and see poison and all kinds of like.
And then you can't save the leg.
And then you end up divorced, and there it is.
It's just the thing. And what's interesting is, really, I don't know if you really vividly remember this, but as we progressed in this, because we were both, ostensibly committed to this process, like the reframes, let's double back on this, got fewer. And the timeout stints got shorter.
Oh, yeah. And that's how it
That
is.
is the progression.
Sure. And then every now and then there's something that's just like crazy. And then it's just like, okay, well, we got to go ahead and handle this at an appropriate level based on what the severity is at the time.
And honestly, like, it's a rare thing now.
Yeah.
But it actually still does happen. Like in those bigger, more like defining kind of disagreements. Like there have been ones where it's like, I need to take that option still.
Sure.
20-something years later.
Yeah. And then the trick is sometimes you're just like in such a state where you can't effectively communicate. And that's like the really tough thing, is because normally you're relatively good at communicating emotion. And I am really looking for clarity so that we can both be on the same sheet of music. And I'm seeking to go ahead and take your emotional language and translate it into a combination and seeing, are we on the same sheet of music if this is the case?
Yeah, definitely with the deteriorated state of my health, it has been, that is the limiting factor for me when I'm at the end of my like bandwidth and I can't even articulate anything anymore. It's just like, either I'm going to cry and or go to sleep. Like that's about it right here. And that is when that really came into play, that one of our disagreements, like that was really humbling experience for me personally.
Well, sure. Well, and it was tough because like it started in front of the children.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this isn't it, but you want to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, let me go, let's do this for a little bit. And then let me guide you into where we need to go.
But I did. I had a nap, and then we talked more about it, and it was much more productive. Yeah. So sometimes, if you are a little bit more fragile, go take a nap.
Sure. But the thing is, don't let the sun go down on your anger, because then the devil gets a foothold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't use that as like a literal like.
I mean, it's pretty good as a guide.
It is generally.
Yeah.
But like honestly, sometimes it's like staying up and beating your head against the wall and for all hours.
It's contextual.
But the thing is, have a next appointed time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's something to that. But I mean, like letting it fester in your subconscious while you sleep also has negative deleterious effects.
It does.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and land the plane. The connecting piece is law number 33 is really about how to read other people. So, finding where their weak points are and, what makes them tick and what gets them excited and how do you push the buttons on them, right?
What's the cheat code?
Yeah, what's the cheat code? All right, let's go ahead and put it in the Konami code and all that.
Yeah.
So law 34 was really about governing yourself and your emotions and keeping control of yourself and how you present yourself to the world. Law number 35 was moving with wisdom and knowing when to time things for maximum effectiveness, because sometimes silence is golden and other times being aggressive is the right option, depending on the circumstance. And law number 36 is sometimes it's okay to detach emotionally because you need to have a clear head about things. Because oftentimes when you are in an emotional state, that's when the worst things come about. You're going to say something in error. You're going to let your tongue waggle a little too much and not in a good way. And there you go. Then you're going to go ahead and cause damage. Mm-hmm. What final thoughts do you have for the women? There's a lot there.
Yeah. It's interesting that a lot of the times, or a lot of women, we have a very clear sense of like ourselves, like how we feel emotional, how we're perceiving, but there is no drive to understand outwardly, like someone else.
Sure.
Especially the person whom you claim to love more than anybody on this earth. Why wouldn't you want to know them? Why wouldn't you want to take the time to understand where they're coming from? Especially if you're married to a good man and you want to, you have a vision and you're going in a direction, you want to work with them. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you want to know who your ally is rather than, see them as an adversary? It makes no sense. It is not productive. And just, you're better off, like, get a dog and die alone. Like, if you want that golden retriever energy, get a golden retriever. Don't shrink a man and reduce him to that kind of, fixture in your life.
Because you won't respect him.
Yeah, not even an actual person. They're just a fixture in your life.
Yeah, and the secret to it is that in order for a woman to truly love a man, she has to respect him. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're being really honest, for her to love a man in the way that is God approved and is something that is a glorious thing that will shine a light to people in the society, you have to be able to respect him first.
And in that, you will leave a lasting legacy of love, not only to your children, but other people. We have friends, we have, extended family relatives, we have other people in our lives who see our relationship, and they are either and or kind of like both, and they want that for themselves. And if anything, they want to be near it.
Right.
I've seen people just want to like
see what's up,
like come alongside and go, just almost like put us under a microscope. And how does that work? How do you do that?
Just ask us questions. It's
yeah,
okay.
it's totally fine. But it really has, in the last few years, like made me wake up and go, this is a rarity. And it's really sad to say that, but it's, made me, I've always appreciated it. And I've always knew this about, but it's like kind of brought that to the forefront.
Yeah.
And it is a rare thing. And I'm really happy to one, be part of it, but to give my kids mainly, something to say, this is how you should be loved, and this is how you should love. More, this is how you should love somebody else than you should be loved. But that too.
Yeah. It's an unintended benefit, right? It's a natural thing that comes alongside. So something that I've got for the men is your power will collapse the fastest if you are emotionally reacting to things rather than taking the time to parse it out properly, put things in their proper context, and coming at it with reason first. Because men tend to think through instinct first, then reason, then emotion. The women usually think about it through instinct, emotion, then reason. It's important to go ahead and know the difference and to be able to approach each circumstance with a proper level of decorum and to give it its due respect. If you like what you saw here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. We've got more for you in store. Every week for the next few weeks, we're going to go ahead and go through some more laws. Next week, it's going to be 37 to 40, and we look forward to getting with you next week. Work hard, gentlemen.